Kristopher, you did say something that it's disgusting to protect public officials,
Yeah.
and I wanted to understand why you think that's disgusting.
I certainly don't ever want to elect an elected official and send them to the state house to make themselves a special class over the citizens. If they're going there and they're getting paid our tax dollars, I want them to be protecting the citizens as a whole. If they are concerned about decorum for maybe citizens, that's fine. I definitely don't want them to be interfering with anybody's First Amendment right. But most of these bills that we're worried about this session, they're focused on protecting themselves as candidates, protecting themselves as elected official from redress and redressing their grievances, and they're trying to insulate themselves in elections. There's another House Bill 1133 that they're trying to push, and they want it to be pushed through in an emergency way, so that if it is gone through and signed, that it will actually be in effect before this primary. And, you know, what they're doing by doing that is they're making themselves a protected class, and they're not concerned about the people who they should be, the citizens. You know, I want elected officials to be safe, obviously. I just don't want them to be spending our tax dollars and their time as legislators to put themselves in a position where they are insulated from, the basic freedom that we have as Americans, which is to redress our government.
From answering questions.
Brad, I'll start with you on that one. That'll be your question. Do you think this thing's unconstitutional, or are you good for it?
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't agree with this at all. Like, we're still talking about the same one, right? But
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, because like all it is doing is making it to where politicians do not have to be accountable to the constituents. You cannot. I can't tell you. Like, I tried to get a hold of Elizabeth Rowe the whole time before I ran against her, and then when I did, I never got answers back. The only time I got to talk to her was when I went to it was ILF day at the State House, and the lobbyists that ILF have assisted in getting me a meeting with Representative Rowe. So like, I had to like pay money to an organization to like go to this thing in order to speak to my representative. It like made me mad on like 8 different levels. So
you know what I
yeah,
say,
I completely get the insulating. That's a great way to put it. They cannot be insulated from answering questions. Like, they want something on decorum. We should get something to where they have to give, a week's notice that they're going to have those public meetings where they're going to be, held accountable to the public, and the public can ask questions and actually get answers. When it's just one-sided, it's just one-sided. We'll ask a question and they will give a response that has nothing to do with it, and we don't have that ability to hold them to that question still and be like, hey, you didn't answer this. It just moves on to something else after the plot.
As an example to the elected officials trying to protect themselves or make themselves different in this session, another bill altogether, House Bill 1343, which makes the filing of a false lien a level 6 felony, and it increases the penalty to a level 5 felony if the false lien is filed against a public official. Now, I don't know what makes J.D. Prescott anything different than me. I have opinions. I think he may be lesser than I am, but that's my opinion. But I certainly don't know what makes him any more special than I am, that if someone files a false lien on me, it's a level 6. But if someone goes and files a false lien on him, it's a level 5. To me, that's just the absolute shows you that they are doing something there this session that is trying to protect themselves and cast themselves out differently than what the rest of us peons are. And that's not what they're there for.
One of the things that I think is really interesting is when you run for office, there's like one of you, and then there's like thousands of people who are looking at you and exposed to you and who want to talk to you. So there's a definite imbalance there. And oftentimes, not all of us are well. Can we all agree to that? Not all of us are well. And so sometimes you get different energy back from people. So if somebody were to file a false lien against an elected official, I think sometimes we have to wonder about the motivation behind it. And sometimes it may not be that, I worked on your house, you didn't pay me, it's a mechanic's lien. It's, I'm just trying to ruin this elected official's life and make it very difficult. And, I'm not a career politician, but I will tell you, during 2023, I had to, spend a couple $1,000s putting lights on my home because people liked to come onto my property. And I had to have several conversations with Chief Gephardt, our police chief here, because people liked to test me. And so I think that there's two sides of this. I think certainly the one-on-one dialogue and getting answers to questions that we deserve from our elected officials, I think definitely that's the kind of conversation that everybody deserves. But when people overstep their bounds and they're rude, unkind, disgusting, they're in your space, on your property, violating your rights, they're doing things like that, there is no recourse when you're an elected official unless somebody actually harms you and you can file charges. So there's this gray space between me and you physically.
But this is about at meetings though, Tiffanie. This isn't like.
So the thing is that, Brad, there are so many things that happen at meetings and legislative sessions that spills over into you're going out to dinner, you're in your yard, you're at home. So some people can't stop it at a meeting. Some people cannot turn it off, and they ruminate and they take these inopportune times to have these conversations. And so I'm just trying to let you know that there is this definite gray space that is very uncomfortable. And it's that gray space between I've just left a meeting and I'm going to call the police because you are committing a crime. So we would have meetings, library meetings, and you can bring a gun to the library. We're just sitting there like fools. There's nothing you can do. So I just think that you have to understand that being a public servant, you're
and
really.
You could bring a gun to a library too, right?
Pardon me?
You too could bring a gun to a library too, right?
I could, but I wouldn't.
Okay, I'm just saying that you, just as a citizen, could also do that. But I think to your point there, it's important to know the one distinction I would say is, first of all, if anyone breaks the law with anybody, an elected official or citizen or me sitting in my home, if somebody's coming onto my property that's unwanted and they're bashing my door in, I'll pick up 911 and deal with it. I'll pick up my, my toys and deal with it, or whatever I need to do to make myself safe, as anyone that has that right. The one thing that I can say is nobody forced anybody to be an elected official. So while I understand the point that you're making there, I find it, it's just, I'm bothered by the fact that people who decided to become an elected official then says, help me, I'm an elected official.
Well, I think the key word's public.
You're elected to, to serve and to talk to your constituents. It's kind of like when I was active duty military, and the idea of
Thank you for your service.
Thank you. And the idea of going to work and dying was fine. It's like, okay, we're going to Oman. We're going to be in the desert for 6 months. We're doing our wartime duty. Okay, we signed all the forms. My daughter's with my husband, and you've got all these other things going on. And if you die at work, you're okay with it because you planned for it. When you're doing politics, it's like, I'm here to write laws, talk to constituents, and then there are people who cross the line. They absolutely cross the line.
That should be dealt with every time.
There are no rules, there's no laws, there's no legislation. There's nothing to protect you as people are crossing the line. And it's not until they do something. It's not until somebody touches you, grabs you, comes onto your property. And so I am not familiar with all of these bills, and I do not know the author, but I understand and I know that there's a gray space. And if people are trying to protect themselves from loonies and clowns and things like that, I
stay off of Twitter. If you want to do that, stay off of Twitter. That's where it happened.
May I ask just one quick question, real quick?
Yeah, sure.
Tiffanie, you ran for something, or you served as an elected official?
I was recently elected, correct.
Can you say what body that is?
Oh, city council at large here in Fishers, a city of about 100,000 people.
Are you a Republican, a Democrat, Libertarian?
I'm a Republican.
That shocks me a little bit, but okay. All right. I just
Why is
wondered.
that? I mean, she
Why are
doesn't sound conservative enough for you.
Why are you shocked? I mean,
It
wouldn't you expect this of an Amish woman? Why are you shocked?
Well, she does date Bigfoot, so I mean,
No,
that's
I just
right
mean
there.
I just kind of those stances. I mean, it's in line with a lot of other Republicans right now in the state of Indiana, and I kind of think that's the problem with what we're seeing here.
Well, she's on the other side of it, Kristopher. So I mean, I
Sure.
can totally understand, and it is that's like our viewpoints. It's like we've had
Absolutely.
Cassie on, and her.
Oh yeah, I
viewpoint is
respect
not
you
like
completely.
me,
I love
like- So yeah, so that's we all have our own way to look at
Absolutely.
things.
And I also watched somebody get arrested at a public meeting. And one of the things that I thought was interesting was that when it comes to public meeting, like interfering with the business of a public meeting is it's a crime. Like it's a misdemeanor or something. That's the law that will get people arrested. And one of the things that I thought was interesting from being on a board, I really felt like the rules were never communicated to people as to what was your time having public comment, and then what was completely inappropriate for disturbing a public meeting, and when you crossed over, what the ramifications could be. So it's kind of like when you have a parent and all of a sudden they go from 0 to like taking you outside to a tree and whooping your ass. So it went really, really fast. But I just think that that's one of the things that we need to communicate is like, this is what we expect. This is decorum. And then this is breaking laws. And then these are the consequences. A lot of people know that I was accosted at a library meeting, and the gentleman was, not gentleman, I'm sorry, I use that very loosely, but he was trespassed from the library for 2 years. And what I thought was very unfortunate about that is, number one, Indy Star and a couple of news crews were there. They never picked it up. Number two, they never said his name in any of the press coverage. Number three, no one ever said what crime he committed and what the issue was. And so when you don't communicate the crime and then the consequences for people don't understand.
Sure.
When something happens, they're like, oh my gosh, why'd they do that to me? It's like, well, no, you did something wrong. And unfortunately, people spend so much time trying to protect other people that you did not know the consequences. So there's a lot that goes into sitting someplace, being a volunteer on a board to represent people in your community that people take for granted. Like I will sit here, I will be at this meeting, but no, you're not going to talk to me like that. You're not going to come onto my property. I'm not going to be part of your clown show. So people just need to understand when to turn it off.
Night.